We are now going to switch gears a little bit, but kind of piggyback on some things that William shared with us. We're going to talk now about mental health and strengthening the relationship in your family with your students, how to keep those lines of communication open, just really practical things that you can do in your family and for your kids. So I am Ann Nickel. I am a student support coordinator here in the district, and our other speaker tonight is Jackie Kaspari. She's also a student support coordinator, and in our role in First YC, we work at some secondary campuses to support the counselors, the students, the staff, to support those campuses with extra counselors. So we're very thankful in Frisco that they have given campuses extra counselors. We do appreciate you being here so much tonight. I know there's always lots and lots of things to do on the evenings, and the fact that you're here, either online or in person, just tells us your commitment to your kids and to learning more about mental health. So let's just kind of get going. A lot of this we're piggybacking on the things that William shared. So we're going to first talk about prevention. And here at First YC, we have a whole lot of things that we have built in to help with prevention at risk. So you may feel like, I feel like sometimes we're on a hamster wheel. We're just life is going, going, going. Our kids feel this way too. It's kind of a grind. We just get up, go to school, do our activities, go to bed, wake up, same thing the next day. And we may feel that way too. It can be exhausting for us. So imagine if you're a child or a teenager, it's really exhausting for them too. So that's why in First YC we have some supports in place to help our kids. So I'm just going to tell you about a few of those right now. We have whole child class meetings. I know in elementary, they start the day and end the day with the class meeting, and that's just a time to kind of connect in the morning and in the afternoon before they come home. At the secondary level, those class meetings happen in advisory at middle school and high school. We have student support coordinators like Jackie and I at the secondary campuses, and again, we support the counselors and the staff and the students on those campuses. One thing we do that you may have already heard about this year is the state of Texas has mandated a suicide prevention lesson be given to all students at the secondary level. And so right now, our high schools and our middle schools are kind of working on that. So if you have students in at those levels, you may have heard from your school, or you may know that it's coming up. But basically what that is it's a day where or in the morning, we do a lesson with the students about suicide prevention, ways that they can reach out for help if they need help, ways that they can help their friends recognize signs that they might be worried about themselves or friends, and then how to get help. And so also at the end of that lesson, students fill out an exit ticket, and they can indicate on there that they want to speak to a counselor immediately that day, or they would like to speak to a counselor, but it can wait a little bit. So this allows our campus counselors to make direct connections with kids who may be feeling at risk, or they may be worried about a friend. So this has been a really great thing for us to be able to connect with those kids who may be at risk or worried about friends. So when your campus, if you're a secondary student, when your campus is ready to do that, you'll get an email. It'll tell you what the day is. It'll have a link to the presentation so you can see exactly what's going to be shared. And if you're not comfortable with that, there's an opt-out that you can opt your child out at that presentation. So we're completely transparent. We want you to be on board as parents. We also have guidance lessons that we do, the counselors do. Some are done in advisory, some in elementary level. The counselor goes into the classroom, or the kids go visit the counselor in her classroom. It depends on the class. But things like character strengths, study skills, future ready skills, communication, things like that are shared with our kids within those lessons. We also have student ambassadors at the secondary level. These are kids who are nominated by their peers, and by their teachers, and they are a group that is kind of like leaders and connectors on the campus. We want to make sure all of our kids are feeling connected in some way, because that decreases their at-risk, their level of being at risk. And so we want to just make sure all kids are connected, and our student ambassadors help with that. We also, every school in the district does a student needs assessment, and this comes out through the counseling department at the school. And this needs assessment asks questions, and the goal is to find out what our kids need. And then we look at that data and we respond to it, whether it be in small groups or specific guidance lessons, individual meetings with students. So we really try to get to know the needs of our kids and then respond specifically. Our staff is also trained in some things. Every staff member has to go through suicide prevention training, trauma-informed classroom training, substance misuse training, and bullying prevention training. So we really want all teachers and staff to be able to respond and recognize any kind of concerns that might be going on with our kids. And then we provide parent programs such as this one. So again, thank you for being here. All of these preventive measures that I just talked about, the district has put in place intentionally to support our students. So that's kind of what we do at the district level. Let's talk about things you can do. You may already be doing. If you look at this picture of the cup and the saucer, kids have a small cup, and parents, we're the saucer. We kind of catch the overflow. We need to support them while their cup is small, and then good parenting helps their cups to grow, and they won't need us as much later. Hopefully, I mean, that's the goal of parenting, is for them to go off and be, great members of society. But, right now they have a small cup, and we need to be supported as they grow. So conversations with kids, sometimes we have to be sort of like a conversation ninja. We have to really approach, especially certain topics, with carefully chosen words, or picking just the right time to talk to our kids. So we have to really intentionally think sometimes and consider the words that we use when we're talking to our kids. So a few conversation do's when talking to our kids. We do want to use honesty. We want them to trust us, obviously, and so when we're honest with them, they trust us. Usually, if we're not being honest, they can usually see through that sometimes, even if we're, not just not being 100% honest. So honesty is best with kids to create that trust. Sometimes just saying, I don't know, is okay. We don't have to know everything as parents, and I think it's such a great example when we can say, I don't know, to something that they're going through or something that they ask us. So that's okay for us to do. Also, as parents, we always want to, fix things and jump in and well, try this, but really kids need us to listen. So sometimes listening and just waiting and letting them talk is the most powerful thing we can do, so that they know that they feel like they're heard. And we don't have to jump in and rescue, or we don't have to jump in and give advice. Just, if we can just sit back and listen, that's so powerful for that relationship with our kids. And then kind of another conversation is using open-ended questions. We always ask when we get home from school, how was school? Fine, and then, the evening goes on. So if we can get a little bit more specific and have an open-ended question, we might be able to get more out of our kids. That's kind of the ninja part that I mentioned earlier. So instead of saying, how was your day, you can ask them something specific like, well, what did you have for lunch today? Or what's it like in the lunchroom for you? Because lunch is always, you never know what's going on at lunch. Lunch is always exciting. They can tell you good stories usually. Or what made you laugh today? Or what was the most challenging part of your day? So something specific but open-ended and a little bit different than how was your day? That can get more conversation going with our kids. Kind of like I spoke of earlier with the waiting, sometimes we just need to hold space with our kids if they're expressing emotions. So if they are talking to us about something and they're emotional about it, again, just kind of waiting and holding space for them is so powerful. We don't always have to say things, just sitting and listening and even just holding them or just even sitting in the same room, holding that space for as long as you're able to, as long as they're willing to sit with you. Might be a while, it might be short, but not having an end in place, or not thinking, okay, I can sit with you for 5 minutes and then I gotta go do this, but just spending that time in holding space. Sometimes it's great if we can validate their feelings. They come home and they're telling us a story, wow, you really sound angry, or you seem really sad about that situation. I remember feeling that way when I was a kid, or I remember feeling that way once before. So validating, reflecting that you see and hear what they're saying and that those feelings are valid. The power of the words "I wonder" is amazing. If you can somehow ninja that into your conversation, for example, they come home, they're talking about they're disappointed in a grade. I can tell you're disappointed in that grade. I wonder what would happen if you talked to your teacher about that. Or I can tell that you're telling me you're really mad at your friend. I wonder what would you tell another friend to do in that situation? So we can use "I wonder" and put some other words after it, and then just sit and hold that space and wait. Sometimes they might look at us like, well, that's kind of a weird thing to say, but then usually they start talking because we phrased it in a way that we're kind of asking a question, but kind of not. And then this is a really, really hard one for parents. I'm a parent, it's hard for me, of allowing our kids to struggle and not rescuing all the time. We want to provide guidance and choices for our kids always, but part of life, we all know, we've all failed at something before or struggled at something. And look, here we all are, we survived, we made it through. And our kids will too, and they will learn a life lesson from it. So, we don't want to see our kids with failing grades or with failing something, but let's allow it because there's just so many valuable lessons that can be learned and that can just help build their resilience when they do. So making mistakes is, we all do it. Supervising our kids with technology and social media. This is, the bane of our existence sometimes, I think. But I was recently at a training and the speaker was named Sean Edge, and he is a local therapist who specializes in technology addictions. It was really interesting to hear him, but one thing that he said that really resonated with me was, as parents, sometimes we assume a video game is bad, or we hear stuff about it, we don't know the details, but we just know, I don't want my kids playing Fortnite, for example. I don't know, that's the only one I know about right now. But he suggested as parents, if instead of just assuming a video game is bad, or we don't want our kids to play, what if we sat down with them and, hey, show me how to play this, or show me what you do on this game, and just sitting with our kid and allowing them to show us the game so we can become more educated on what they're doing, as well as just connect, like, wow, my mom sat, or my dad sat and watched me play Fortnite last night. It was really pretty cool. And then we also can see maybe, oh yeah, that game is maybe not appropriate, or hey, that game's not as bad as I thought. So the more we can get involved in our kids' technology use and know what is going on and use it as a connector, that's just going to help build that relationship as well. And then finally, another conversation do or connection do is just getting to know their friends and just spending time with them and their friends, getting to know their friends and their families. Having kids over to your house is just gonna help you be able to know those kids more. And, because that, we always want to know who our kids are hanging out with, so that's a great way to connect with our kids. So that was a lot of ways that we can be supportive and kind of be that saucer for our kids. Oops, I don't know what I just did, Jackie. She's gonna fix it for me. Okay, thank you. We're gonna talk a little bit more about, practical things that you can do. And if you think about things that grow, like a garden, parenting is kind of like cultivating a garden. We're growing these kids and we're taking care of them. And if you've ever had a garden, you have to kind of pay attention to it for it to grow and be successful. So, and the things that we do positive in our garden are just going to help our plants to grow. And same with our kids. So we want to pay attention to certain things, because what we pay attention to will grow and expand. Our kids' strengths. You know your kid best than anyone else, and whenever you can acknowledge or point out something, a strength of theirs, and talk to them about it, that just helps build their strength and their confidence back up. So instead of maybe saying, good job, you got an A on that project, maybe say, I can tell you worked really hard on this, I saw you working on it every night this week. So focusing on like that strength instead of the product, which is the A. Or instead of asking, what grade did you get on your product or your project, you could ask, well, how did you come up with the idea for your project? And talk to them about their, how they came up with that idea. And so pay more attention to their strengths and how they came up with ideas and what they're doing that's working in their lives. In First YC, we have a lot of very high achieving kids, which is amazing. We have a great school, so our kids are just really achieving, but then we also see as counselors, we see kids who are, for whatever reason, feeling a lot of pressure to succeed and to have the highest GPA or the highest grade in the class, or be the valedictorian, get to the Ivy League school, which are awesome goals, but also it puts a whole lot of pressure, and whether that pressure is coming from themselves or another source, it doesn't matter, because that level of perfection is impossible to sustain. Like we talked about earlier, mistakes, kids make mistakes, people make mistakes, and we want to make sure that our kids know that, and that it's okay. So if we can model when we make a mistake, or we can tell a story about something that we did that maybe didn't go the way we wanted, that can show them, oh, hey, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get a 99. My mom messed up this one thing once. Not just once, probably more than once, but they need to know that it's okay to not be perfect, because nobody can sustain that level of perfection. And speaking of mental health that we're talking about tonight, when our kids have expectations on themselves that are too high, that's just going to put that pressure on themselves and is not good for their mental health, and they're not enjoying school. We want kids to enjoy school, don't we? So as parents, we can model balance. It's hard for me, honestly, to find balance in my life, so some of you may feel that way as well. But if we can model balancing, our work life and our friend life and our family life and our self-care life and all the things that we are involved in, and our kids see that, they're gonna learn from that. They're gonna learn from seeing us in a balanced, healthy life. So we are huge models for our kids. And along with being models, we can model emotional regulation. It's healthy for us all to feel emotions, even the hard ones that don't feel good. We need to feel them, and that's healthy. So our kids, you know, if they see us cry, or if they see us get angry, or if they see us feeling sad, that's okay. They need to know that, oh, these feelings are, everybody has these feelings. And then we can model how to regulate, you know, like if we're angry, and we can model and say, oh, I'm really angry right now. I'm gonna go sit in the other room and take some deep breaths, and I'll come back and talk to you in a minute. That's just gonna show them, okay, maybe that works. So we are huge models for our kids. Okay, we are going to switch speakers, and this is Jackie Kaspari. She's going to speak with you some more.
All right, thank you, Anne. All right, we want to see the signs. You know, as parents, the last thing that we want to believe is that our child is struggling with mental health, or even worse, having suicidal thoughts. It's important for us to know those warning signs that we spoke to earlier, and to keep those in mind, and to recognize them in our children. The second thing is to really look at functional behaviors. So we know that you know your child's baseline and norm better than anyone else. So if all of a sudden your child seems devoid of energy, or super irritable, is having trouble keeping up with hygiene, not eating or overeating, sleeping too much or not enough, maybe avoiding responsibilities or refusing to go to school, declining grades, all of those things. So if they are not able to function as they normally do, that is definitely something that is a warning sign for you to keep into account and to really pay attention to. The other thing is feedback. Warning signs often come in the form of feedback from others. So maybe a teacher or a coach calls or emails home and says something is just different with their child. They are isolating, or they have a new group, or gosh, they've never had difficult behaviors in class, and all of a sudden they're acting out, or they seem angry. So these things that you hear from teachers, coaches, counselors, parents, people in your neighborhood, even sometimes it's extended family. You know, as parents, sometimes these changes kind of sneak up and they're gradual, but somebody from the extended family will come and say, gosh, you know, Johnny is just kind of seeming a little different. And so let's make sure that we listen to our circle of influence and our tribe and really pay attention. Lastly, you are the expert on your child. We've spoken about this earlier, and I really mentioned it too. That little voice inside that says, gosh, something just isn't right, please honor that. And honor that parent's intuition, and ask those questions of your child. When in doubt, we tell the kids to act. So with our secondary students, we use the SOS, Signs of Suicide model with our students. And we teach them the acronym ACT: acknowledge, care, and tell. And this is just another way of saying some of the things that William spoke to earlier. So acknowledge meaning expressing concern and letting them know that you care about them. Gosh, this seems so hard. So in private practice, when I say that to kids, they go, yes, you didn't try to talk me out of that. That's big. That sounds so hard. You will not, I mean, that's just as good as I wonder. Okay, that's a good thing. Just express concern and seek clarity. Let me understand this. This is what I'm hearing you say. Is that what you said? And let them clarify, and they'll know that you're caring enough to really get the details and really try to get a sense for what they're going through. And then care. Show sympathy and kindness with your words, your body language, your gestures, and your tone. So this is definitely a time when, as a parent, and I know that I've done this before, I'm trying to multitask, and my child is really upset, and I keep going. That's not good. So we have to stop, and we have to eye contact, turn toward them, and really be that soft place to call. Because if we don't, if we ignore or we minimize or we shut them down, are they going to come back to us the next time? Probably not. And we want them to keep doing that. We want to keep those lines of communication open. So after care and showing sympathy, we're going to tell. We're going to tell them to explain more to us. We highly suggest that if your child is suffering from depression or certainly suicidal ideation, that you let the school counselor know. And just so you know, confidentiality is honored, but we would like to have that child on our radar and make sure that we're checking in and providing support. So tell the school, and then we recommend, if it continues, reaching out to trusted helpers and professionals and seeking further assistance. Lots of times I hear parents and sometimes other loved ones of people say, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And so then a lot of times they won't say anything at all. And then later they will regret that choice. So here are some really great things to say. What I heard you say was, is that correct? Tell me more. This is sympathizing. Like, I don't know exactly how you feel, what's going on, but I really want to try to understand because it's important to me. Also, you must be really upset to feel this way and in a lot of pain. I am so sorry you're going through this. This is kind of like, wow, that sounds hard. I'm so glad you had the courage and trust to tell me this. What I will say is, as a parent, sometimes if your child comes to you and says, I have been depressed for 6 months, your first inclination could very well be to say, why did you wait so long to tell me? Instead, we're going to say, I am so glad you had the courage to tell me today. That sounds and feels a lot different for them. Also, please know that there is hope. We're going to get you some help and some hope, because that's what they need, is an infusion of hope. The things we're not going to say are dismissive things like, you don't need that. You have a great life, there's nothing for you to be upset about. It can't be that bad, because that feels dismissive, and again, that's going to cut the line of communication and they're not going to come back to you again. You're also not going to say you should think of the positive things, or what you should do is try to fix it or write it, or I know how you feel. You know, the fact of the matter is, we don't know how they feel. We've never been a teenager today. And we want to understand what they're going through, but when we say we know how they feel, they don't feel really heard. And by the way, as a parent, I've messed up on all of this. And I'm a counselor. So just know, if you mess up, circle back and say, have they listened? I don't know what I was thinking. What I really meant to say was, and they will love you for that. Okay, this is a question that those of us who are in counseling and mental health get a lot. Why are these kids struggling so much? Why are American kids and teens so sad? And I found an article in The Atlantic called Why American Teens Are So Sad. It is fabulous and I highly recommend it, and it's actually quite short. Bottom line is there are 4 reasons. The first one is social media use. So comparing themselves to others, highlight reels, and feeling not enough. And the pressure to look a certain way and have certain things, and so-and-so supposed to marry this party, I wasn't invited, the list goes on and on, right? I see a lot of and in this article, Jean Twenge says this, which I thought was very powerful. She said, the force of social media with our children and our teens is like rat poison, which is toxic to almost everyone. It's not like rat poison, excuse me. It's really more like alcohol. So she's comparing social media to alcohol, and she says, it's a mildly addictive substance that can enhance social situations and make you feel better for a little bit of time. But then it can lead to dependency and depression in many users. The same is true of social media. When we see our children and they're struggling, oftentimes they are numbing out their emotions by constantly scrolling and staring at devices and holding up in their bedrooms, comparing themselves to others. We have to give them a reason to come out of their room. And some of them be chores. They're not going to want to come out like that. So it's got to be, something fun to do as a family, or, a trip to the store. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but give them a reason to come out and go on social media. The next one is lack of connection, which ironically correlates with social media because they don't have that authentic in-person connection oftentimes. And we also know that one of the most protective factors for kids and teens to depression and anxiety is connection with their friends and peers. Developmentally at this time, they are working, especially our adolescents. It is their developmental work to start slowly pulling away from us, and guess where they're going more to? Their friends and peers. And so Ann talked earlier about getting to know those kids, but we've got to honor that need for connection, because if we don't, they get really sad and depressed. They need more than just us. So another contributing factor to mental health struggles is world stressors. So for the past decade, this group of adolescents has dealt with gun control and gun violence and school shootings and pandemics and wars and political unrest and. We think that they're resilient and that they don't feel that, but the research shows that they do. And so that is contributing to their anxiety and their depression as well. Lastly, modern parenting styles, and I'm going to own this, be transparent and with myself and with this too. We as modern parents, in our efforts to give our kids the best opportunities and in our efforts to make life wonderful and easy for them, sometimes we overschedule them. Sometimes we too get onto that hamster wheel that Ann talked about, and we feel the need to compete with them and make sure that they have all the best in sports coaching and that they get straight A's and all the things. And we forget about play and fun and relaxation and family time. And we try to fix things. So that's something to be aware of. All right, lastly, we're going to hit some warning resources. So if you have that gut instinct and you see warning signs and you're getting feedback and you think, you know what, this is just something I want to explore, where my child is in mental health right now. We have lots of resources for you. Community resources. Oftentimes I will just suggest to a family, start with your pediatrician. They are a wealth of information. If you trust your pediatrician, they usually partner with mental health providers that are going to be like-minded. So that's always a great place to start. And also they will rule out any physical things like vitamin D deficiency or magnesium deficiency, iron deficiency. A lot of times those things will mimic depression in your kids too, as will sleep deprivation. Medical professionals such as psychiatrists, neurologists, and then therapists, either licensed professional counselors or LPC associates or licensed clinical social workers. And try to find someone that specializes in whatever your child is dealing with or a certain age group. And then school. The school counselor is a wonderful resource. Every school counselor in our schools has a minimum of a master's degree in school counseling. They are master's degree professionals who are trained in mental health as well as academics. So please use them. We also have teachers and coaches. They have a huge impact. So if you know your child is bonded to one of them, ask to have a conversation and say, what are you seeing? And just FYI, if you could give my kid extra love, they're struggling right now. So it really is a team approach, and that's what we want in Frisco ISD. And then district resources. So Ann is going to click on the link here for district resources. So you go to the website and you hit departments, and then guidance and counseling, and down to counseling resources. Okay, on the left, you'll see lots of things that, by topic, you can click on to get information. But right now, we're going to look mostly at the community resources. Okay, so this is the community resources page that our department has worked very hard to provide. And of course you will. Maybe refresh. Okay, here we go. So if you'll click on the resource category, you can see we have tons of community resources that have been vetted by our department and our district, and that we feel comfortable sharing with our community. So different kinds of counseling, clothing, ESL classes, food, furniture, financial services, legal services, but let's just kind of peruse counseling. So say you're interested in counseling and you would like to look for low cost and free counseling. So you would click there, scroll down, and then you would see a plethora of options in our district. Okay, so we're really happy to roll that out and get on your play, because there are lots of great resources, especially for the different specialties in counseling. Another great resource is our guidance and counseling newsletter. It just went out today. It comes out once a month. It's got great information in it. And so the way to do that, if you will click that link, yes, you will go to Frisco ISD and then the department's communications, scroll down and click subscribe today to learn about events and things to do to support your child. So lots of resources, please use them, and always feel free to call on your counselors. Okay, Anne. Also, you are the vital resource, and we always want you to feel that you are able to come and to the school and work with us, and please continue to check in with your kiddo on how to handle this. Some helplines. These numbers are going to be printed on the back of students' IDs. We started this last year, grades 6 through 12. And we did add the 988 this time. So 988 will take directly to the National Suicide Helpline. And the national helplines are available 24/7, 365. They are manned by mental health professionals. If your child were to ever call those and exhibit active suicidality, they would immediately call the police to your home. Just know that. And then they can also text home or talk to 741-741. And then here are the non-emergency police numbers, just for your information. We always like to provide those as well. As we're talking about therapy, I just want to say really quickly, oftentimes Anne and I will see students that their parents really want them to go to therapy and they think that it's a great idea. And the student says, no, I don't want to go. And so the parents don't take them because they're just not sure they're going to benefit from it. What I would say to that is this: if your child were physically ill, it is a non-negotiable that you take them to the doctor, right? And so I think the conversation that there are some things that are not your choice is important, but you can soften them to the idea by bringing them into the process of looking at the different options online, looking at the pictures and what they specialize in, and helping them, giving them some control to help choose. And just to say, you know what, let's give it a try and see. And if you really don't like this person, it's just like a doctor or a dentist. I'm not going to stop taking you. I'm going to find one that's the right fit for you. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, Andy, we're going to wrap this up.
One thing I forgot to mention when we started was when you registered for this event, you were able to give us questions that you wanted us to cover, and we appreciate that so much. We really tried in our presentation to address as many as we could, as many questions that you had, as many concerns that you had. We really tried intentionally to build those in because that was what you wanted to hear and know about. So if for some reason you still have a question about something, or maybe you want to talk about something specific about your child, your school campus counselor is a great resource, like Jackie said earlier. I would start there, or you're also welcome to contact Jackie and I. Our emails are up there. We're happy to visit with you, talk with you, anything that we can do to help support or answer any questions that maybe we didn't answer during this presentation. So I really hope that this was worthwhile and useful and relevant to your life and your family's life and kids' lives. We just love every kid here in Frisco. We want the best for them, we want the best for our families. So, thank you for coming tonight. We really, or for coming online. We really appreciate you very much, and let us know if we can help with anything. Thank you.